When you think of a furry convention, you might imagine a space full of colorful costumes, creativity, and community. But what happens when one cosplayer crosses the lines and turns a lighthearted event into a source of fear and confusion? Well, this is a story on how somebody dressed as Voyage is stirring up the community, apparently dividing it into two groups with two different ideas. So let's get straight to the point. Super B Pedro, or for simplicity's sake, Pedro, amassing 12,000 followers, was and still is the center of attention with his Bon Voyage cosplay that many found amusing. But the problem that I have with him isn't the costume itself, but instead his actions. And I guess that's where we quickly begin to see the divide within the furry community. Those who dislike him don't like his actions, but those that defend him find his personality amusing. And I think that's the biggest sense of confusion and why we seem to be so divided. I think the people that find his personality amusing seem to think those that don't like Pedro is because they don't like that he's funny or he's cosplaying as Bon Voyage, and some furries complain he's not more accurate when that's just not the case. And we're going to break that down. And this man is such a contentious topic because unfortunately people boil down this discussion to left furries going against right furries, which is the main reason why I'm hesitant. I try not to bring politics into discussions, so I let it be. I mean, the whole video could be summed up to not bring realistic guns to conventions, but it quite literally turned into this meme. But before we talk about it further, I'd like to give a quick shout out to our YouTube members. Huge thank you to the Carolean, Zunks, Lorik, and Avro the Blue Jay. You guys have been incredible and I'm grateful for your support. None of this would have been possible without you guys. And for just $1, you too can get access to content before release and a shout out. Though honestly, I'm too inconsistent to be doing YouTube memberships right now. This will be the only shout outs I will have until I get to an upload schedule. So YouTube memberships won't be a thing until I get a consistent schedule. But getting back on track, to quickly summarize why people dislike Pedro in the first place, you have him as Bon Voyage. Pedro would be lollygagging around the con space, making a name for himself by being eccentric, I would say. All of it leading up to getting a prop weapon and being on the balcony of the con floor, getting praised as well as pointing it at fellow con goers down below. Now this is where we see a political shift because unfortunately gun restrictions are a debate on the left and right side. So you will notice right-leaning folks in defense and left-leaning folks on the offense. But this shouldn't fuel a political discussion. Although gun restrictions on what's allowed for gun ownership is in hot waters, this isn't a real weapon. It's a prop, but this left wing, right wing circle that people want to cover is just a red herring. Plain and simple, you shouldn't direct your prop weapon to con goers. Being snuck up on with a prop weapon myself, it definitely makes me uncomfortable as other people in that con were. It's okay if you like his antics around the convention, but we can all agree that if you're going to have realistic weapon being pointed at you, it's uncomfortable at the end of the day. Unless you find being pointed at with guns amusing. To each their own. But some people make the argument it was okay because it was cleared by the staff, but it really contradicts their policy of whether it looks or could be mistaken as a real gun. It shouldn't be allowed. That is a real head scratcher when that gun was run and cleared by someone in the staff and also the local police department. But despite this defense, the policy clearly states if it could be mistaken as a gun, then it shouldn't be allowed, despite the orange tip markings and a zip tie. It personally set that double standard with their policy and really remains a mystery as to why it was okayed by the staff, and if future people replicate this stunt would get off the hook as well, cause if you bend the rules for one, you have to bend them for everyone, or however that cheesy saying goes, cause we know in reality rules aren't bent for everyone, only if it suits their benefits, and in reality I should honestly just be bent over. To further add on to this gun debate, you see people that defend him talk about this video and complain that those that call him out hold a double standard for, again, bringing that prop gun. And the big thing there that makes it fall apart is, once again, context. This is clearly a space where you know you're going to see a Nerf gun, a thing that is obviously a fake gun. And I really don't want to hear, oh, someone could bring a gun to that space but make it look like a Nerf gun. And my response is, why is that your point for a debate? Like, to even suggest someone is going to do that is so stupid, because those that generally do that want to use their firearm for something other than legal activities. If you have to go that far to conceal a weapon to that degree. To get back on track, one event has clearly fake weapons for the sake of an event designed around it for enjoyment, while the other wasn't planned or other attendees weren't notified they were going to see such a thing. This isn't to say I have issues with realistic looking guns and I'm a soy boy because I have problems with realistic weapons. I've been paintballing before. I've looked like a cheetah with my time on the battlefield. My issue isn't with realistic looking prop, but it just boils down to time and place. From a location meant to simulate such weapons to a furry convention where one prop is the center of attention amidst a group that has dealt with harassment and death threats, it's pretty clear what is and isn't socially acceptable. And that leads into another issue I have with Pedro. That being not his obnoxious behavior, but his sense in doubling down. We've seen him apologize for his stunts now, but he seemed to switch up and in fact embrace that people find that stunt offensive and troubling, particularly making it his whole personality, if you will. I say he intentionally attempts to rage bait and sees satisfaction in being controversial. That's pretty much what his Twitter symbolizes whenever he gets called out. I really find it corny, you know? I mean, if your whole reputation is based upon upsetting Twitter and a mime costume, then I really can't be bothered with you. But here we are. He hides with the defense that he's just cosplaying a character and fails to realize it's not the cosplay people have issues with, it's him. Now at a glance, I haven't seen any troublesome following from him, mostly gun enthusiast accounts, and it's really silly if I try to paint him as this gun loving edge fanatic for it. Like we see military guns and gun fanatics in the furry fandom with furries wearing military gear. I'm not gonna tell him what he can and can't follow, because that boils down to what you want to see. If you want to see guns being guns and cool army people shooting them, then I have no issues with it. But someone did manage to find the racist account he was following. They say he follows accounts, plural, that are made exclusively to post racist content, but I haven't seen any more racist accounts he follows besides the one made in this tweet. You have his response, which I think is good. I mean, he doesn't have to outright say he unfollowed the account, but it's already said that he just doesn't support stuff like that. But then that's just doubled down as per usual. Now, I agree with this tweet. You can follow who you want, I can follow who I want. It's simple math, really. But when you're following accounts that post racist content and other harmful content like zoo accounts, for example, that sets a bad tone for your image and that you support it. Because I'm aware that follows do not equal endorsement and that belief should be held. But when posting a reaction meant to be a goddamn on the fact you follow said account, it leaves an impression that you're okay with the racist content and it's something you endorse, although you apparently believe otherwise. With another post not even about their situation, they assume someone was talking about them and quickly jump to the defense. Again, it's not a good look, and one has to see the irony in jumping into defense by seeing a few buzzwords and immediately assuming it's about you. But that isn't to say one can't also view the sympathy. With everyone talking about him from both sides, the attention has to be grueling at some point. But if it's the attention one craves, it's the attention one gets. And it's clear furries won't be silent about this guy in the defense and the offense. And it's gotten to a point where it's bleeding outside the fandom, with far right-winger libs of TikTok account posting about how a child cried at someone wearing a fursuit, which is a whole situation blown out of proportion. It happens, carry on. Don't make it a big deal, but it was made into a big deal. But in the replies of that viral post, you have Pedro tweeting he will save us. Us as in the general users of Twitter, or us as in furries. With his infamous prop gun in the image, well, this post really rubs me the wrong way, with many others in that wrong way. Cause with his follow-up making amends with that fursuiter, Pedro said it was a really bad joke and the intention was that he saw himself as a savior. But a savior to who? Furries or right-wingers? And even then, with the image of the gun attached, is he implying to shoot the fursuiter or who really? It's a post that's broad, and it's no surprise it was interpreted wrongly. However, it was supposed to be interpreted in the first place. Pedro being accused that they don't follow any furry creators at all, it leaves a big question to what this guy is really on, to be honest. But to wrap everything in a neat little bow, social unawareness, rage baiting, and attention getting is really the cause for why these things happen to Pedro, with being an edgy edgelord, quote unquote, to, well, a funny eccentric guy. A lot of people confuse his personality and getup to why people are upset rather than his actions of himself as an individual. One side making harsh assumptions in a way to defend Pedro, against another side being more critical of his mistakes. The case of Voyage is very interesting, but there's one thing for certain. Cosplayers are here to stay in the furry fandom. We're not exclusive after all. From Lois Griffins to the Mystery Gang, cosplayers should be welcomed in this furry space to enjoy. But what is intolerable is people who use the furry space as a way to elevate themselves at the expense of having the community that finds them amusing to be the punching bag of their jokes. Keep life lovely, and this is Novely logging off.
Oh, sorry, I had like a schizo moment. Holy shit.